Hi, hey, I am talking to you from my home where I am playing Queen of Special Ed this afternoon, which means I'm going to be bringing down some proclamations, so be ready for that. I've sent all of you an email. Each of you are getting an email about your progress monitoring again. I also sent an exclamation email. That's kind of long, so I thought, well, I'll put my crown on and do a little video for you as well. So you can watch the video or you can read the email or you can do both, whatever makes you happy. The emails are about progress monitoring. We did another round of looking at progress monitoring to see who's behind, who's caught up, where we're at. First of all, things look a lot better than they did a month ago, so thank you very, very much for that. But I still am getting questions about progress monitoring that I want to make sure that I answer. So one of the big questions is, what happens if I'm not the person doing the progress monitoring and the graph is not updated? So what I want you to do in that situation is, if you have a progress monitoring graph that is not updated, I want you to, first of all, let your teacher partner know that's supposed to be doing the progress monitoring that it's not done. You can do that by email or by talking to them in person. And then let your administrator and myself know via email that, hey, I know this looks like I don't have this done, but it's actually not something that's supposed to be monitored by me. What I don't want you to do is to say, hey, I'm going to start doing that progress monitoring because otherwise it looks like I'm not getting it done. Remember, the only purpose of progress monitoring is to guide instruction. So if you're not providing instruction, it doesn't make any sense for you to do the progress monitoring. Also, what happens when I go into an IEP meeting and my progress monitoring graphs aren't updated by some of my teacher partners? Again, contact your teacher partners, look at those graphs about a month out. If they're not updated and you're not getting some sort of feedback from them before the IEP meeting, you need to request that. If you, after requesting it, if it's still not updated and you still don't get information, then you need to contact your administrator and let them know, hey, I'm trying to get this information. What I don't want you to do is go into an IEP meeting and say, well, Mr. Smith doesn't have his progress monitoring done, so that's why that graph is empty. That's the last thing that we want to do. So another thing that I hear from people is, what's the purpose of progress monitoring? And we just reviewed that. The purpose of progress monitoring is to guide instruction. It is not an act of compliance. It actually has a purpose to guide instruction. And then, what is the purpose of specially designed instruction? In almost all instances, without fail, for almost every student, except in rare circumstances, it is to make sure that students are making progress in the general ed curriculum, in the core curriculum. So we want to make sure that our progress monitoring and our goals are aligned to grade level standards. This is something we've been talking about and working on, and I know it's a steep learning curve and it's something that is new for us, but I want us to continue down this road. Another question I'm hearing, the infamous list of progress monitoring tools that are approved. So is there a list of progress monitoring tools we can use? There is no list. Now there may be one that you have, but it's not real. Okay, do not use that list. Do not rely on that list. It does not require you to use something from the list. Progress monitoring does not have to be normed. You need one thing each year that is normed for your IEP. But progress monitoring does not have to be normed, and there is no approved list of progress monitoring. Another question I'm hearing, what does progress monitoring in SDI look like that's aligned to core standards? Well, there are different things that I've seen people do. One thing in the email, I've attached the Central Rivers AEA core curriculum rubric. So you can use a core curriculum rubric and you can get a score on the rubric, and then you can use that as a baseline, and then you want to improve that score on the rubric so much over the life of the IEP. This is different than what we have normally done because that means that you're focusing on multiple skill areas instead of just focusing on something like fluency. So that is different to look at. Another thing that you can do is say, I'm going to use progress monitoring of formative assessments that are in the general ed classroom. Sometimes that makes absolute sense to do. You look at those formative assessments the regular ed teacher is getting, you collaborate with that teacher, and then each time you look at the data, you determine, scaffold back and say, what skills do I need to be focused on during specially designed instruction in order to support the student in the core curriculum? This is a big learning curve, and I know it causes stress for people. So one question I get too is, do I need to change right now? And no, you don't. you can keep doing what you're doing. If you've got progress monitoring graphs that are Jamestown reading probes and digits correct and correct word sequence, you can absolutely keep going with those and the goals that you have. There's no proclamation right now from the Queen that you have to change the way you do progress monitoring or the way that you do your goals right now. But if you would like to, I'm also giving you a proclamation that you can change if you would like to change. So, what are the next steps? The next steps are that we will continue to monitor progress monitoring to make sure that it is up to date. We will also be continuing with some PLC work this summer, looking at progress monitoring and how can we move forward with this. One of the struggles we've had with our district as far as being able to align to the formative assessments that are used in regular ed, that are aligned to our priority standards, is that they haven't existed in all areas. This is work that's happening on the general ed side, and that's going to help us tremendously. So as they do their work, we do our work. We're going to come together hopefully by this fall and have more things that we can use for progress monitoring that are within the district. There will be more professional learning available both in August and when the school year starts to help folks with writing goals and doing progress monitoring aligned to standards. I also attached to the email an article about standards-based goal writing and progress monitoring that I invite you to read. I also have the Central Rivers AEA core curriculum rubrics that are on the email as well. And also, I have also gave you an article about the Andrew F. case, which is the Supreme Court case that is, I think it's about 2 years old now, but that case is the one that says that there needs to be rigorous progress and the progress needs to be aligned to grade level standards. So bottom line, progress monitoring is about instruction. That is the purpose of it. It is not an event. So if you are a person that does probe Wednesdays or probe Tuesdays or probe Fridays once a week and we don't do instruction because we do probes that day, I want you to really think about that you're stopping instruction for an entire day to provide progress monitoring for your students when we're not even necessarily using the progress monitoring to guide instruction. I had a great superintendent from Newton, and that one of his lines was, he was a farmer, and he said, you know, the cow doesn't gain weight standing on the scale. And that is absolutely the truth. The more that we can align our progress monitoring with what is already happening with students instructionally, and that we don't have to stop instruction and do probes, the better off we are. So last week before spring break, we've had lots and lots of weather. Let's get through this week, and hopefully when we come back, we'll actually see maybe some grass on the ground. Thank you.